The Crixian warships emerged from hyperspace like obsidian shards against the starlit void, their massive forms casting long shadows across Earth's orbital defense platforms. Admiral Senna Krell stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Night, her iridescent scales gleaming under the soft purple lighting that all Crixians preferred. She had led the conquest of 17 worlds, and Earth would be her 18th victory. Or so she thought. The humans' primitive detection systems had already spotted her fleet, of course, but that was part of the plan. Let them see. Let them tremble. The Crixian Empire had never failed to conquer a world, and their reputation alone often led to immediate surrender. Launch the diplomatic probe, Krell ordered, her voice carrying the characteristic metallic resonance of her species. The probe would broadcast their demands across every human communication channel. The message was simple: surrender or face extinction. On Earth, in the underground UNDF, United Nations Defense Force command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Sarah Chen watched the alien fleet's approach on a holographic display. Unlike many of her colleagues, she didn't see monsters or demons in those ships. She saw arrogance. They're positioning themselves in a standard theta formation, Lieutenant Commander James Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across the tactical console. Classic intimidation positioning. They want us to see their full strength. Chen nodded, her expression remaining neutral despite the gravity of the situation. And what strength would that be, exactly? 47 capital ships, approximately 300 support vessels. Energy readings suggest weapons technologies at least 3 generations ahead of ours. Rodriguez paused, then added, conservative estimates give us a survival probability of less than 12% if we resist. The command center fell silent as the alien transmission began playing across every screen and speaker on Earth. The message was being broadcast in perfect English, clearly translated by advanced AI systems. People of Earth, I am Admiral Senna Krell of the Crixian Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our glorious civilization. Resistance is not only futile but unnecessary. Accept our rule, and you will be granted the privilege of serving the greatest empire the galaxy has ever known. Refuse, and we will be forced to demonstrate why no world has ever successfully resisted us. You have 6 hours to submit your response. General Chen studied the faces around her. Fear, anger, determination, but not defeat. Never defeat. She pressed a button on her console, opening a channel to the United Earth Council. Madam President, you're receiving the transmission. We are, General. President Isabella Martinez's voice was steady. The council is convening now. What's your assessment? Chen looked at the tactical display again, watching the alien ship's energy signatures pulse with barely contained power. They're exactly what we've been preparing for, Ma'am. Project Phoenix is ready. There was a pause on the other end. Project Phoenix was humanity's best-kept secret, a revolutionary defense system that had been in development since the first hints of alien civilization were detected decades ago. It was untested, theoretical, and possibly suicidal. It was also their only real chance. The Council will need convincing, Martine said finally. Can you guarantee it will work? Madam President, the only thing I can guarantee is that surrender isn't an option. These Crixians, they're not here to uplift us or share their technology. They're colonizers, pure and simple. And based on their ship positions and energy signatures, they're already preparing for orbital bombardment. They don't expect us to fight back. That's their first mistake. In orbit, Admiral Krell was growing impatient. The humans were taking too long to respond. Perhaps they needed a demonstration of Crixian power. She was about to order a warning shot when her tactical officer called out in alarm. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface. Multiple locations, pattern unknown. Krell's secondary hearts began beating faster, a sign of agitation in her species. Explain. The signatures don't match any known weapon system. They're dispersed somehow. as if the entire planet is. The officer never finished his sentence. Across Earth's surface, thousands of seemingly innocent satellites and debris pieces suddenly activated, revealing themselves as components of a vast, interconnected defense network. Project Phoenix had begun. The first wave struck the Crixian fleet like invisible hammers, disrupting their shields with precisely calculated gravitational pulses. Ships began to drift out of formation as their artificial gravity systems went haywire. But this was just the beginning. "Magnificent, isn't it?" General Chen said softly, watching the chaos unfold on her displays. "They thought we were primitive because we still use combustion engines for some things. They never considered that might be by choice, that we might be hiding our true capabilities." President Martinez's voice came through again, stronger now. "The Council has voted, General. Unanimous decision. Send our response to the Crixians." Chen nodded to her communications officer, who activated the global broadcast system. The message they sent back was short, but it would change the course of human history. "Admiral Krell, we've considered your generous offer. Our response is this: Earth is not yours to take. We are not here to serve. We are not here to submit. We are here to remind the galaxy that empire building always comes with a price. And today, you're about to learn exactly how costly your ambitions can be." As the message concluded, Project Phoenix entered its second phase. The real battle for Earth was about to begin, and the Crixians were about to learn why assuming technological superiority was a dangerous mistake. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for generations, and they had no intention of becoming anyone's subjects. Admiral Krell stood on her rapidly destabilizing bridge, watching as her perfect formation dissolved into chaos, and felt something she had never experienced in all her years of conquest: doubt. These humans weren't reacting according to any known pattern. They weren't behaving like a primitive species at all. They were acting like they had been waiting for this moment. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, General Chen gave the order that would begin humanity's first interstellar war. "All units, commence Operation Shattered Crown. Let's show our visitors why you should never judge a species by its oldest technology." The battle for Earth was about to begin, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Admiral Krell's second heart was pounding as she watched her mighty fleet scatter like leaves in a storm. Project Phoenix, whatever it was, had turned the space around Earth into a navigator's nightmare. Gravitational distortions rippled through space, playing havoc with their ship's most basic systems. "Status report," she barked, steadying herself against her command chair as another wave of distortions washed over the flagship. 30% of the fleet is reporting critical systems failures." Her first officer responded, his scales dulled with stress. "Shield harmonics are destabilizing across all vessels. We've lost formation coherency, and our targeting systems can't compensate for the gravitational anomalies." Krell's inner eyelids flickered in frustration. This was impossible. The humans were supposed to be primitive, barely capable of reaching their own moon. Yet they had somehow turned their entire orbital space into a weapon. "Launch the swarm," she commanded. The swarm was the Crixian Empire's answer to any unusual defense system, millions of self-replicating combat drones that could adapt to any threat. No civilization had ever withstood a full swarm deployment. On Earth, General Chen watched as the Crixian ships released clouds of metallic particles that quickly formed into deadly autonomous units. "Right on schedule," she murmured. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, initiate Phase 2. "Yes, Mom." "Activating the HFY's network now." Across Earth's surface, thousands of seemingly ordinary weather monitoring stations hummed to life. What the Crixians couldn't know was that humanity had been studying their drone technology for decades, intercepting and analyzing scattered units that had drifted into the solar system from their previous conquests. The HFY's network fired, sending precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses into space. The swarm, programmed to adapt to conventional weapons, found itself caught in a web of competing electromagnetic fields that matched exactly the frequency of their control systems. In orbit, Krell watched in horror as her supposedly invincible swarm began to turn on itself. The drones, their programming corrupted by the human countermeasures, started attacking anything that moved, including Crixian ships. "Impossible," she whispered. "Shut them down. Shut down the entire swarm." But the shutdown codes had no effect. The humans hadn't just prepared for the swarm, they had weaponized it. In the Rocky Mountain bunker, Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. "The swarm is fully compromised, General. Estimated 19 minutes until they've reduced the Crixian fleet's shield strength to critical levels." Chen nodded. "Good. Now show them what else we've been hiding." Launch the Ghostwalkers. From secret bases across Earth's surface, sleek vessels emerged from underground hangars. The Ghostwalkers were humanity's masterpiece. Ships that could manipulate their own gravitational fields to slide through space like shadows, virtually invisible to conventional sensors. Admiral Krell was trying to reorganize her fleet when the first Ghostwalker struck. The human vessel simply appeared inside her fleet's defensive perimeter, launched a barrage of quantum-tipped missiles that phased through conventional shields, and vanished again before anyone could react. "How?" Krell demanded as damage reports flooded in. "How are they doing this?" Her tactical officer, looking at sensor readings, had no answer. The human ships seemed to bend space itself around them, appearing and disappearing at will. It defied everything the Crixians knew about physics. What the Crixians didn't understand was that humanity had chosen to appear primitive. They had maintained older technologies as a facade while developing weapons and defenses that operated on principles their potential enemies wouldn't expect. The Ghostwalkers weren't just ships. They were the product of a civilization that had learned to hide its true capabilities. "Admiral," her first officer reported, his voice shaking, "we've lost contact with the entire Eastern Battle Group. The swarm has completely overrun their defenses, and these human ships, they're not following any known tactical doctrine. We can't predict their attack patterns." Krell felt something she had never experienced in battle before. Fear. Her fleet, the pride of the Crixian Empire, was being systematically dismantled by a species that was supposed to be primitive. But she hadn't survived countless battles by giving up easily. "Launch the planet cracker missiles," she ordered. "If we can't have this world, neither will they." The order went out, and massive missiles designed to shatter a planet's crust launched from the remaining Crixian ships. It was the Empire's ultimate weapon, their final solution for particularly troublesome worlds. General Chen had been waiting for this moment. "Execute Operation Breaking Dawn," she commanded. Across Earth's surface, enormous energy collectors that had been disguised as solar farms synchronized their power. In orbit, defunct satellites suddenly activated, revealing themselves as nodes in a planetary defense grid that had been decades in the making. As the planet cracker missiles approached Earth, they encountered something unprecedented, a planetary shield that didn't try to stop them, but rather redirected their enormous energy back toward the Crixian fleet. The explosion was visible from Mars, a brilliant flash that marked the destruction of nearly a third of the remaining Crixian vessels. Admiral Krell, watching her fleet burn, finally understood the terrible truth. They hadn't stumbled upon a primitive civilization. They had walked into a trap generations in the making. "All ships," she transmitted, her voice heavy with the weight of her miscalculation. "Emergency withdrawal. Full retreat to safe distance." As the surviving Crixian ships struggled to disengage, General Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. But she knew this was only the beginning. The Crixian Empire wouldn't take this defeat lightly, and humanity had just revealed some of its most carefully guarded secrets. "Send word to the Council," she ordered. "Tell them to activate all sleeper cells in Crixian space. If they want a war, we'll show them what humanity can really do when we stop pretending to be primitive." In the depths of space, as her fleet limped away from Earth, Admiral Krell began composing a message to the Imperial High Command. How could she explain that the supposedly primitive humans had not only anticipated their attack, but had prepared countermeasures for every Crixian advantage? How could she admit that her pride had led her fleet into a carefully laid trap? The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. And for the first time in its history, the Crixian Empire would learn what it meant to fight an enemy that had spent generations preparing for this very moment. 3 weeks after the Battle of Earth, the mood in the Imperial Palace on Crixia Prime was tense. The High Council chamber, with its towering obsidian columns and purple-tinted atmospheric processors, had never seen such disarray. Admiral Krell stood before the council, her scales dulled with shame as she finished her report. The humans didn't just defeat us, she concluded. They were waiting for us. Every counter, every defense. They knew our tactics before we deployed them. High Counselor Vex, his age evident in the fading luminescence of his scales, leaned forward. Impossible. Our intelligence network is absolute. We would have known if they possessed such technology. A new voice cut through the chamber. Would we? All eyes turned to Science Director Mira, the youngest member of the High Council. Her scales still shimmered with the vibrancy of youth, but her eyes held the weight of troubling revelations. We're detecting anomalies across our entire empire. Mira continued, activating a holographic display. Communication disruptions, unexplained system failures, data corruption, all so subtle that we might have missed them if we weren't specifically looking. The humans didn't just prepare for our invasion. They've been infiltrating our systems for decades. Meanwhile, aboard the human stealth vessel Shadow of Dawn, Captain Maya Patel reviewed the final preparations for Operation Prometheus. Her ship, hidden in the debris field of a destroyed moon in the Crixian home system, was humanity's most advanced infiltration vessel. Status report, she demanded, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display showing Crixia Prime. Her XO, Commander David Chen, responded with practiced efficiency. All sleeper cells are activated and in position. The quantum virus has successfully compromised 84% of their military networks. The Prometheus device is prepped and ready for deployment. Maya nodded. The Prometheus device represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, a weapon that didn't destroy, but rather transformed. It was the culmination of decades of research into the fundamental forces that shaped the universe. Signal the other cells, she ordered. Operation Prometheus begins in 3 hours. Back in the Imperial Palace, the emergency alarms began to sound. Science Director Mira's scales flashed with alarm as she read the incoming data. Multiple breaches detected in our quantum security grid, she reported. Someone's accessing our most secure networks, but the signatures, they're coming from inside our own systems. High Counselor Vex rose from his seat. Impossible. Our quantum encryption is based on principles we thought only we understood, Mira cut in. But the humans, they'd been reading our transmissions all along. Those primitive radio signals they still use. They were a mask, hiding quantum communication bursts that our systems interpreted as background radiation. Across the Crixian Empire, carefully planted human agents emerged from deep cover. They weren't spies in the traditional sense. They were synthetic humanoids, practically indistinguishable from organic life, who had spent years integrating into Crixian society. In orbit around Crixia Prime, Captain Patel gave the final order. Deploy the Prometheus device. The device, hardly larger than a human hand, transmitted a signal that propagated through the quantum networks the Crixians relied upon. But unlike conventional computer viruses, this one didn't just affect their technology. It altered the very laws of physics within Crixian systems. In the Imperial Palace, Science Director Mira watched in horror as their most advanced systems began to fail. But they weren't simply shutting down. They were transforming. The humans, she whispered, finally understanding. They didn't just study our technology. They found a way to rewrite the quantum foundation it's built upon. The Prometheus device was humanity's ultimate weapon against the Crixian Empire. It didn't destroy their technology. It changed it, forcing their quantum systems to operate according to different physical laws, laws that only human technology could navigate. Captain Patel watched as the device's effects spread across the Crixian home system. Ships lost power, defense systems transformed into useless arrays of exotic particles, and communication networks became incomprehensible even to their creators. "Send the message," she ordered. Throughout the Crixian Empire, on every functioning communication device, a transmission began to play. It was Admiral Krell's own words from the Battle of Earth, but now directed back at the Empire. Surrender is not only possible, but necessary. In the High Council chamber, as systems failed around them, High Counselor Vex turned to Admiral Krell. How? How did we not see this coming? Krell's response was interrupted by the appearance of a holographic projection, a human figure broadcast simultaneously across every world in the Empire. It was General Chen, her expression stern but not triumphant. "People of the Crixian Empire," she began, "we could destroy you now. Your technology is disabled, your defenses transformed, your empire at our mercy. But unlike you, we don't seek to conquer. We don't desire an empire. What we want is simpler. Your attention." She paused, letting the words sink in. "For centuries, you've expanded across the galaxy, assuming your technological superiority gave you the right to subjugate others. Today, that assumption ends. The Prometheus device hasn't destroyed your technology. It's transformed it. You can have it back, but only after you understand the price of empire." In the debris field, Captain Patel allowed herself a small smile. The Crixians had never imagined that their supposed victims had not only matched their technological level, but had surpassed it in ways they couldn't comprehend. Science Director Mira, studying the readings from the transformed systems, felt a mixture of fear and fascination. The humans hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had learned to manipulate the fundamental laws of physics themselves. Every assumption about humanity's capabilities had been wrong. As Operation Prometheus reached its completion, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted irreversibly. The Crixian Empire, built on the assumption of technological superiority, faced a choice: adapt to a new reality where they weren't the most advanced civilization, or risk losing everything they had built. The war wasn't over, but its nature had changed. And in the depths of space, humanity's ships waited, ready to show the galaxy that true power didn't come from conquest, but from the patience to plan, the wisdom to wait, and the courage to act when the moment was right. In the days following Operation Prometheus, the mighty Crixian Empire found itself in unprecedented chaos. The grand halls of the Imperial Palace, once filled with the confident discussions of conquest, now echoed with heated arguments and desperate plans. Science Director Mira stood before a gathering of the Empire's greatest minds, her scales shifting through patterns that reflected her inner turmoil. On the massive display behind her, data streams showed the extent of humanity's infiltration into their society. The humans didn't just hide their true capabilities. She explained, her voice carrying across the stunned audience. They learned to think like us, to understand us in ways we never bothered to understand them. And worst of all, they found our greatest weakness. "We have no weaknesses," shouted one of the older scientists, his scales flashing angry red. "We are Crixian. We are superior." Mira's eyes narrowed. That right there is our weakness, our certainty, our pride." While we were congratulating ourselves on our superiority, the humans were studying, adapting, evolving. In orbit above Crixia Prime, aboard the transformed remains of what was once their greatest battleship, Admiral Krell watched her world through new eyes. The Prometheus device hadn't just changed their technology. It had forced them to see things differently. "Show me the analysis again," she ordered her science officer, who now worked with hybrid systems, part Crixian, part human-influenced technology. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the elegant complexity of human quantum engineering. It was beautiful in its efficiency, terrible in its implications. The humans hadn't needed to develop the same technology as the Crixians because they'd found better ways to achieve the same results. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Chen was meeting with the United Earth Council in a session that would determine the fate of two civilizations. The chamber was tense with the weight of victory and responsibility. "We have them at our mercy," Admiral Santos argued, his weathered face stern. "We should press our advantage, ensure they can never threaten another world." Chen shook her head. "That's exactly what they would do, and that's exactly why we won't do it." President Martinez leaned forward. "Explain your reasoning, General." "The Crixians aren't evil," Chen said, her voice firm. "They're proud, arrogant, convinced of their own superiority. But right now, that worldview is crumbling. Their society is facing its first real crisis of confidence in centuries. That makes this the most dangerous and the most promising moment in their history." Back on Crixia Prime, Science Director Mira was making a discovery that would shake the Empire to its foundations. In her private laboratory, surrounded by transformed technology that bridged the gap between human and Crixian science, she found something extraordinary. "High Counselor," she called, her voice trembling. "You need to see this." Vex arrived quickly, his ancient eyes taking in the data displays. "What am I looking at, Director?" "Proof," she said simply. "Proof that we weren't the first. The humans, they found evidence in our own ancient records. There was another empire before us, one that spanned the galaxy. They didn't fall to conquest or disaster. They chose to step back, to hide their true power, to watch and wait." "Impossible," Vex whispered, but his scales had paled to an ashen gray. "The humans didn't just develop their strategy by chance," Mira continued. "They found records of it being used before. We've been so focused on conquest that we never recognized the patterns. The humans didn't just outsmart us, they learned from those who came before." The revelation spread through the Empire like a shockwave. Ancient records, long ignored or misinterpreted, suddenly revealed new meanings. The Crixian Empire, which had prided itself on being the pinnacle of galactic civilization, was forced to confront the possibility that they were merely repeating a cycle they hadn't even recognized. Admiral Krell, reviewing the data from her transformed flagship, felt a profound shift in her understanding. "We thought we were the masters of the galaxy," she murmured to her assembled officers. "But we were children playing with toys we didn't fully understand, while others watched and waited." The internal conflicts within the Empire intensified. Some, like Science Director Mira, advocated for a complete reassessment of their society's foundations. Others, clinging to their belief in Crixian superiority, called for desperate measures to restore their dominance. But the humans had anticipated this too. The Prometheus device hadn't just transformed their technology. It had been designed to give the Crixians a choice. They could adapt to a new way of thinking, or they could remain trapped in systems they no longer controlled. In her laboratory, Mira made another breakthrough. The transformed technology wasn't just different. It was more efficient, more elegant. The humans hadn't disabled their civilization. They had offered it a path to evolution. "They're not our conquerors," she announced to the High Council. "They're not even our enemies. They're our teachers, whether we wanted them or not." The declaration sparked furious debate throughout the Empire. But as more Crixian scientists studied the transformed systems, they couldn't deny the evidence before them. The humans had developed something beyond mere technological superiority. They had achieved a fundamental understanding of the universe that the Crixians, for all their pride, had missed. As the debates raged, a message arrived from Earth. It was simple, direct, and would change the course of both civilizations. "The Prometheus device can be reversed. Your empire can be restored. But first, you must answer one question. Are you ready to learn?" The question echoed through the halls of power on Crixia Prime, forcing every member of their society to confront truths they had long ignored. The enemy wasn't just at their gates, it was within their minds, challenging everything they had believed about their place in the universe. The great hall of the Galactic Council gleamed under the light of three suns, its crystalline walls reflecting the assembled representatives of both humanity and the Crixian Empire. 1 month had passed since the deployment of the Prometheus device, and the galaxy waited to see how this unprecedented conflict would end. General Chen stood before the assembly, her uniform crisp and formal, but her expression held no triumph. Beside her, Science Director Mira's scales shimmered with an iridescence that reflected both anxiety and hope. The two representatives of their respective civilizations had spent the last week in intense negotiations, working toward something unprecedented in galactic history. "We stand at a crossroads," Chen began, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Not just as two civilizations in conflict, but as inheritors of a legacy we're only beginning to understand." Behind them, a holographic display activated, showing the transformed systems of the Crixian Empire alongside the original configurations. The difference was striking, not in complexity, but in elegance, in the way energy and information flowed through newly optimized pathways. "The Prometheus device," Mira continued, her translator conveying the subtle harmonics of her native speech, "was not a weapon of destruction, but a key to understanding. In transforming our technology, it forced us to confront truths we had long ignored." The display shifted, showing ancient records that both civilizations had recently decoded. Evidence of previous galactic civilizations, of cycles of rise and fall, of power and wisdom. The humans hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had rediscovered ancient principles that the Crixians, in their rush for dominance, had overlooked. High Counselor Vex, watching from his position among the Crixian delegation, felt the weight of centuries pressing upon him. The Empire had prided itself on being the pinnacle of evolution, but they had been running in circles, repeating patterns they hadn't even recognized. "Our proposal is unprecedented," Chen continued. "Not surrender, not conquest, but synthesis. The Prometheus device can be reversed, but we suggest something different. A controlled transformation, guided by both our civilizations working together." The chamber erupted in murmurs. What they were proposing was radical, a deliberate merging of technologies, philosophies, and understanding. The humans would share their insights into quantum manipulation and physical law modification, while the Crixians would contribute their vast knowledge of galactic engineering. Admiral Krell, her scales now bearing the subtle shimmer of transformed cybernetic enhancements, stood to address the council. "I led the fleet that sought to conquer Earth," she declared. "I believed, as we all did, in our absolute superiority. The humans proved us wrong not through superior firepower, but through superior understanding." The display shifted again, showing simulations of what their combined technologies could achieve. The elegance of human quantum engineering merged with Crixian energy manipulation created possibilities that neither civilization had imagined alone. "But there's more," Mira added, her voice tight with excitement. "Show them." The holographic display expanded, revealing patterns in space-time that both civilizations had recently detected, signs of observation, of attention from something far older and more advanced than either of them. "We're being watched," Chen explained, "not by enemies or potential conquerors, but by those who came before. The ancients who seeded the galaxy with the foundations of our technologies. They're waiting to see if we can break the cycle of conquest and domination." The revelation hit the assembly like a physical force. The greatest powers in known space suddenly understood that they were part of something larger, a test perhaps, or an opportunity for growth that transcended their individual ambitions. "The choice before us is simple," Mira declared. "We can cling to old patterns of dominance and submission, or we can embrace a new way forward. Together." The proposal they presented was comprehensive, a gradual integration of their civilizations, beginning with technology but extending to culture, knowledge, and understanding. The Crixian Empire would not end, but transform, becoming part of something greater. "We stand at the threshold of a new era," Chen concluded, "not as conquerors or conquered, but as students of the universe ready to learn its deeper truths together." The vote, when it came, was not unanimous. Change never is. But the majority of both civilizations recognized the opportunity before them. The Prometheus device had shown them a glimpse of what was possible when ancient wisdom met modern innovation. In the end, it wasn't weapons or strategy that determined the outcome of the war between humanity and the Crixian Empire. It was understanding. The humans had won not by destroying their enemy, but by showing them a better path. As the council session concluded, General Chen and Science Director Mira stood together at a viewport, watching the three suns set over the galactic core. "Do you think they're watching now?" Mira asked, her scales reflecting the dying light. Chen smiled. "I think they've been watching all along, and I think we finally passed their test." In the depths of space, ancient systems stirred, recognizing patterns they had waited millennia to see. The cycle of conquest and empire had been broken, replaced by something new. The real question was no longer about victory or defeat, but about what they would discover together. The war that had begun with an ultimatum ended not with surrender, but with synthesis. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, those who had come before prepared to welcome their children home.